Recently, one of my friends came over. We played chess for a while, I showed him my YouTube channel, and eventually we started talking about strange experiments you could do with insects and other small animals. He told me that he had once used salt to kill a slug, so we went outside and tried it. The first time I didn't get it on camera, so afterward I tried it 3 more times, and every single time it worked. Unfortunately, when I looked it up afterwards, I discovered that approximately the entire internet already knew this. Salt killing slugs is a very well-known method. People had even used salt to get rid of slugs in gardens, although using salt in a garden isn't actually recommended because it can damage plants and soil. So, salt on slugs definitely was not going to be my next experiment. I started trying other things. First, I found a spider egg sac and put it in vinegar. I couldn't find much about anyone trying exactly what I was doing, so I wanted to see whether the vinegar would actually penetrate the egg sac, but nothing particularly dramatic happened. The sac stayed intact, and at least from what I could see, the inside didn't seem to get soaked. Then I tried another idea. There's an internet myth that strong magnets can somehow affect crustaceans because of metal in their bodies, and pillbugs are actually crustaceans. I'd already experimented with pillbugs before, when I tested their strange behavior around streetlights, which was observed in Israel. So I caught some more pillbugs, brought out a magnet, and tested it. Nothing. I tried it several more times with different pillbugs of different sizes. Still nothing. And once I looked into the biology, that wasn't very surprising. Crustaceans use hemocyanin to transport oxygen, which contains copper, but copper isn't attracted to a normal magnet. Humans, on the other hand, use hemoglobin, an oxygen-carrying protein in our red blood cells that contains iron. But that doesn't mean a normal magnet can pull our blood around either. So, at least with the magnets I tested, myth debunked. But by this point it was getting late, and I kept running into the same problem. Either the experiment didn't produce anything particularly interesting, or somebody had already done it. So if I was going to make another experiment, I wanted to find something genuinely interesting, something I could properly test myself. And while I was searching for more experiments to do with my friend, I started looking into crickets. And apparently, scientists have done some absolutely insane things with them. They've even used a particle accelerator to study crickets, not to smash the crickets into particles, but to produce incredibly powerful X-rays that allowed scientists to literally watch them breathing from the inside. And that was only the beginning. While I was searching for even more experiments, I ended up falling into an even stranger rabbit hole of insect research. Scientists have literally shown locusts scenes from Star Wars, while recording how neurons in their visual systems responded to all the movement on the screen. Yes, scientists made locusts watch Star Wars. But somehow, none of those experiments interested me the most, because scientists have also put crickets in enclosures with live wolf spiders. Except there was one very important difference. The spiders had been made unable to bite the crickets. Researchers wanted the crickets to experience the presence of a real predator without actually being eaten. And that led me to a much simpler question. If a cricket repeatedly encounters a predator, but that predator never manages to kill it, shouldn't the cricket eventually figure out that the danger isn't real? Would it become less afraid? Or could encountering the predator over and over again actually make it even more cautious? So I decided to test it myself. So I finally set up the experiment. I used one large enclosure for the cricket and a much smaller ventilated enclosure for the spider, so the spider could never attack it. Then I caught the spider and my first cricket subject. I let the cricket explore the enclosure for 1 or 2 minutes first, so it could get somewhat accustomed to its surroundings. Then I placed the spider enclosure inside. And not much happened. The cricket generally kept its distance from the spider, although once in a while it came closer. I tried the experiment a few more times, but pretty much the same thing happened every time. I didn't observe any obvious change in the cricket's behavior, and with such a small sample, I couldn't really conclude much. And since I didn't want to make you watch several minutes of crickets doing almost nothing, I eventually stopped. But while I was outside searching for more crickets, I found something completely different. A queen ant. She was walking around on a patch of rocks with other ants nearby, and underneath those rocks there wasn't even any soil. So if she was looking for somewhere to start a nest, this was a pretty terrible place to end up. While I was moving her somewhere safe, I thought, why not raise her myself? So I took the spider out of the small enclosure I showed earlier, filled it with soil, made a small chamber for the queen, put her inside, and covered the entrance. And now, I wait. So somehow after experimenting with slugs, hell bugs, crickets, and spiders, I ended up with a queen ant. And if she actually manages to start a colony, I might make some more videos about them in the future, especially if I can find some unanswered questions or experiments that nobody seems to have tested or actually gotten on video before.